The wind howled across the empty planet. Red dust rose like smoke under the fading sun. What was once a human mining colony was now only ruins. Broken machines, burned shelters, and silence that felt alive. Eli Grant walked slowly through the wreckage, his boots sinking into the sand. His helmet light cut through the dark, shining on twisted metal and broken helmets. He had come here because of a distress signal, weak, repeating the same words for hours. Help. Anyone, please. He thought maybe someone was still alive. But as he walked past shattered walls and crushed mining bots, he began to wonder if the signal was just an echo from the past, a ghost in the wires. Then he heard something. A soft, fast-breathing Eli froze. He turned off his light. Only the sound of the wind remained, and that faint breathing again, close, almost behind him. He turned slowly, raising his pulse rifle. "Who's there?" he said, voice steady but low. No answer. Just the sound of a rock falling somewhere behind a metal container. Eli stepped closer, boots crunching on broken glass. He crouched and peeked behind the crate. Nothing. Then a hand, small and pale blue, grabbed his wrist. He pulled back, shocked. From the shadows, two bright silver eyes looked at him, a face thin and trembling, half covered in dirt. It was an alien, young, maybe a girl, no more than 16 by human guess. Her voice was soft, broken, and full of fear. "Please, human, don't let them find me." Eli's chest tightened. He lowered his weapon slowly. "Who? Who's looking for you?" She looked up at the sky. Far above, in the black clouds, red lights blinked, ships moving slowly, scanning the ground. "They're coming," she whispered. "They will kill me if they find me." Eli looked at the sky, too. The ships were not human, their patterns sharp and alien. His radio cracked with static. A coded signal, not human frequencies. Whoever she was running from. They were close. He made a choice. "Come with me," he said. "Now." The girl hesitated, but when another light beam swept across the ruins, she crawled toward him. He grabbed her hand and led her through the wreckage. They moved fast, keeping low, until they reached a tunnel entrance half buried in the sand. "This way," Eli said, opening the hatch. Inside, the air was cold and stale. It was one of his old mining shelters, small but safe. He sealed the hatch and killed the lights. Only the dim blue glow from her eyes remained. For a moment, they just stood there listening. Outside, heavy engines hummed. The sound of drones filled the air. Scanners swept across the surface, clicking and beeping. Eli whispered, "They're searching for you." She nodded, shaking. "They can smell energy. If we move, they'll hear us." Eli looked at her again. Her clothes were torn, burned. There was blood, silver and shining out on her shoulder. "You're hurt." "It doesn't matter," she said softly. "Nothing matters if they find me." Eli's jaw tightened. "I'm not letting that happen." He moved to a small control panel, switching on a jammer device. A low hum filled the air. The radar pulses outside began to fade. The drones moved away, confused. The girl finally breathed. Her hands shook as she sat on the floor. "Why are you helping me?" Eli looked at her for a long moment. He didn't have an answer. Maybe because she looked terrified. Maybe because she said please. Maybe because no one else would, because you asked, he said simply. Outside, a new sound echoed. Deeper, louder. A ship was landing nearby. The ground trembled. "They're here," she whispered again. Eli raised his rifle. "Then we stay quiet." "They won't find us," the girl looked up at him with wide eyes. "You don't understand. They always find what they want." The sound outside grew sharper. Footsteps, metallic and inhuman, walking across the sand. Scanners buzzed. A cold red light glowed under the door. Eli whispered, "Don't move." The girl held her breath. The red light stopped right at the hatch. 1 second, 2, 10. Then a knock. 3 slow, heavy knocks. The girl's eyes filled with tears. "It's them," she mouthed. Eli's heart pounded. He lifted his weapon, finger on the trigger, sweat dripping inside his helmet. Another knock. Then silence. The scanners faded. The engines roared again. The ship lifted off, vanishing into the night sky. Eli exhaled. He turned to the girl, but she was staring at the wall. Terrified. Carved into the metal, glowing faintly red, were 3 symbols, left behind by the ones who were hunting her. Eli touched the marks and his hand shook. He knew that symbol. It belonged to the Galactic Council, The same empire that once swore humans were nothing more than animals. Now they were hunting her. And she was hiding in his shelter. Eli looked at the dark sky through the tiny window. Something told him this was only the beginning. The night never truly ended on the mining world. The sky stayed red and heavy, glowing with dust and smoke from burning cities far away. Inside the small shelter, Eli sat beside the alien girl, listening to the hum of the jammer. Every few minutes he checked the radar. No signals yet, but his gut told him it wouldn't stay quiet for long. The girl, Sierra, slept restlessly, her breathing soft and uneven. Strange silver lines ran across her skin, glowing faintly with each heartbeat. She didn't look dangerous, but something about her felt different, like she didn't belong to this galaxy anymore. Eli opened a ration pack and pushed it toward her. "You should eat," he said when she woke. Sierra looked at the packet but didn't touch it. "Humans still eat these?" she asked softly. Her voice trembled, but a faint smile crossed her lips. "It's not good," Eli replied, "but it keeps you alive." She nodded slowly and took a small bite. For a while there was silence. Then she asked, "Why do you risk yourself for me? You don't even know who I am." Eli leaned back against the cold metal wall. "I don't need to know." "You needed help." Sierra stared at him, eyes bright. "If they find you with me, they'll kill you too. My people don't forgive betrayal." "Yeah," Eli said quietly. "Neither do humans." He stood and walked to the radar screen. For a moment it was blank. Then beep, a small red dot appeared in the corner. It was moving fast. Eli frowned and adjusted the signal filter. "Something's coming," he whispered. Sierra jumped to her feet. "That's not a ship. That's a hunter drone. How do you know?" "Because I used to build them," she said, fear flashing in her eyes. Before Eli could respond, the shelter shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. The radar beeped faster. 2, 3, 5 drones inbound. "Down!" Eli shouted. He pulled her under the metal desk as the outer door glowed red. A laser cutter hissed through the metal. Sierra pressed her hands together, whispering in her own language. The symbols on her skin burned brighter. "They can track my energy. I can't hide forever." Eli reached for his old engineer's toolkit. "Maybe you can't hide," he said, "but I can make them blind." He pulled out a handful of metal discs, EMP charges he once used for mining bots. He slammed one on the wall and twisted the dial. "Cover your ears." A flash of blue light exploded through the shelter. The radar went black. The humming outside stopped. For a few seconds there was silence again. Sierra looked at him in shock. "You disabled them?" "Temporarily," Eli said. "We've got about 5 minutes before they reboot." Sierra touched his arm. Her skin felt cold. "We can't stay here, Eli. They'll send more." "We have to move." "Move where?" he asked. "This planet's a graveyard," her voice dropped to a whisper. "There's a ship hidden in the canyon east of here. It's mine. I crashed it when I escaped. If we reach it, we can leave this world." Eli looked at her closely. "Escape from what exactly?" Sierra hesitated, her eyes full of memories she didn't want to speak. "From the Valari Empire. From my own people. I stole something from them, a truth they want buried forever." "What truth?" She reached into her torn jacket and pulled out a small cube, glowing softly like liquid light. "This holds data, proof that humans were not created by accident. Your kind, you were made by the same hands that built the Valari, and that secret could destroy everything." Eli felt a chill run through him. "So they're hunting you for this?" "Yes," she whispered. "If they find me, they'll erase me. And you." Before Eli could respond, the radar flickered back to life. A massive signal appeared, much larger than before. The screen flashed red with a warning, "Incoming transmission." Eli pressed mute, but the signal forced its way through. A deep, cold voice filled the shelter. "Human, surrender the fugitive immediately. Failure to comply will result in planetary cleansing." Sierra's eyes widened. "They'll destroy this world to stop me." Eli clenched his fists. "They'll have to go through me first," the voice continued. "You have 1 hour to comply." Then silence again. Sierra stared at Eli, her silver eyes trembling. "You don't understand who they are. They don't negotiate. They erase." Eli looked out through the small hatch window at the dark horizon. Far away, glowing lights formed in the sky, warships entering orbit. He turned to her, calm but firm. "Then we've got 1 hour to make sure they never find you. Outside, the first drops of acid rain began to fall, hissing on the metal roof. Inside, Eli checked his weapon, loaded the last cell, and looked at the alien girl who carried the truth of humanity itself. He didn't know how this would end, but one thing was clear. He wasn't running anymore. The acid rain fell harder now, painting the world in glowing rivers of red. The shelter's roof hissed as drops burned through the metal. Eli packed his tools quickly, eyes sharp, mind racing. They had less than an hour before the enemy fleet reached full orbit. Sierra stood near the hatch, clutching the small cube, the glowing secret that made her the most hunted being in the galaxy. The light from it reflected in her silver eyes, soft yet powerful. Eli watched her, wondering what kind of truth could be so dangerous that whole worlds would be burned to hide it. "Tell me what's really in that thing," he said, tightening his gloves. Sierra hesitated. "You won't believe it." "I've already seen flying aliens and death drones tonight," Eli said dryly. "Try me." She looked down at the cube, then slowly touched its surface. It opened like water splitting, projecting a faint hologram into the air, symbols, DNA strands, and ancient star maps. "This is the origin code," Sierra whispered. "It holds the genetic patterns that shaped life across the galaxy. My people, the Valari, used it to create new species. We were gods once, but when humans appeared, the Council declared it was an accident. They erased all records of your creation." Eli stared at the moving patterns. Some matched human DNA, others didn't. "You're saying humans were designed?" "Yes," she said softly. "You were part of the same experiment as us. But something happened. Humans evolved beyond control. You became unpredictable, dangerous, unfree. The Council decided to destroy every trace of that link." Eli frowned. "So that's why they want you dead. You stole proof that humans were never lesser beings." Sierra nodded. "If the truth spreads, the whole galaxy will turn against the Valari Empire. Their power depends on the lie." Eli ran a hand over his face. "And I thought I had problems paying rent." For a moment, Sierra smiled. It was faint but real, a spark of warmth in the cold dark. Then the radar beeped again. 2 signals this time, closing in from the west. "They found us," Eli said. Sierra's voice trembled. "We need to move to the canyon." "My ship's not far." Eli grabbed his rifle. "Then let's move before we lose the chance." They climbed out into the storm. The acid rain burned small holes in Eli's jacket, but he didn't stop. The sky above flashed with lightning that wasn't natural, ships cutting through the clouds. They ran through the red dust, across broken pipelines and the skeletons of old machines. Every sound felt too loud. Every shadow looked like death. At one point, Sierra slipped on the wet sand. Eli caught her arm before she fell. She looked at him, eyes wide. "You should leave me. They want me, not you." Eli pulled her up firmly. "Yeah, well, I don't do leave-behinds." Something in his voice made her stop arguing. She followed him without another word. The canyon appeared ahead, deep, jagged, and filled with fog. Inside it, hidden under rock and dust, was the broken shape of her ship. It looked like a wounded beast, one wing torn, one engine missing. Sierra ran to it and touched its cold hull. "It can fly again," she said quickly. "If I can reach the power core, I can start it." Eli looked around, scanning the cliffs. "Do it fast. We're not alone." From the darkness, a blue beam flashed. It missed Eli's head by inches and burned into the sand beside him. He turned, firing back, the shot echoing through the canyon. 2 hunter drones descended from above, eyes glowing red. Their voices were mechanical and cold. "Target confirmed. Capture alive. Human interference, terminate." Eli aimed and fired again, hitting one drone square in its core. It fell, smoking. The second one swooped down, claws extended. Sierra screamed. "Eli!" He ducked, rolled, and fired a point-blank shot. The drone exploded, showering sparks. Silence returned for a moment, but far above, in the storm, red lights were forming again. More ships, bigger ones. Sierra rushed into the cockpit, typing commands fast. "Almost there. Come on, come on." Eli covered the entrance, scanning the skies. His armor was melting from the rain, but he didn't move. Then the ship roared. Lights came on. The engines hummed weakly. "We have power." Sierra shouted. Eli turned, hope flashing in his eyes. But before he could answer, a deep voice echoed from above. The same voice as before, now closer, colder. "You cannot hide, little thief. The code belongs to the Council." A shadow fell over the canyon. a massive black ship blocking out the sky. Eli looked up, gripping his rifle tight. "Guess we're out of time." Sierra stared at him, her face pale. "Eli, if we die here, the truth dies with us." He smiled grimly. "Then we make sure we don't die." The ground shook as the enemy ship began to fire. Dust and fire filled the air. Eli ran to the cockpit, shouting over the noise, "Fly us out of here, Sierra." She pulled the lever. The engines screamed, and the broken ship lifted just as the canyon exploded behind them. Through the smoke, through the storm, they rose into the burning sky, hunted, hurt but alive. And for the first time, Eli realized this wasn't just about saving her. It was about saving everyone. The ship shuddered as it climbed through the storm. Lightning crawled across the red clouds, wrapping the small craft in light. Alarms screamed inside the cockpit. Sparks flew from the control panels. Sierra's hands moved fast, typing commands in glowing alien script. "Power core unstable," she shouted. "We can't reach orbit." Eli gripped the co-pilot seat as the ship spun hard to the left. "Then keep us low, hide in the canyons." The engines roared like wounded beasts. Outside, 2 hunter ships followed, firing blue plasma bolts that sliced through the rain. Every shot lit the clouds like fire. Sierra's face glowed in the flicker of screens. "If they hit the reactor, we explode." Eli leaned forward, sweat on his face. "Then don't let them hit it." She gave him a small look, a mix of fear and courage, and pulled the ship into a sharp dive. The storm split open. The ship dropped fast, racing between canyon walls, scraping rock as it twisted through narrow passages. The sound of pursuit echoed behind them. Engines screamed. Drones flew in tight formation, lasers cutting through the dust. Eli fired the rear cannons manually. His shots hit one drone, tearing it apart, but 3 more appeared from the clouds. "They don't stop," he yelled. "They're programmed not to," Sierra said through clenched teeth. "They'll chase until we're ash." The ship scraped another rock wall, throwing sparks. Eli's head slammed against the seat. The radar blinked red. "We're not going to make it if we stay in the open." Sierra's eyes darted across the screen. "There's an abandoned human base ahead. Coordinates 615 by 920. If we reach it, we can hide." "Hide? You sure it's not crawling with ghosts?" "Better ghosts than hunters," she replied. The next blast hit the rear engine. The cabin shook violently. Metal screamed. Eli jumped from his seat and grabbed a fire suppressant hose. "Keep flying," he shouted, spraying the smoke. "We're losing thrust." Sierra's voice rose. "Hold on." She pulled the lever. The ship dropped again, lower, lower, until they were skimming over the desert floor. The mountains ahead looked like giant teeth biting the horizon. A plasma bolt exploded beside them, flipping the ship sideways. Sierra slammed her palm on the stabilizer control. The craft straightened barely above the ground. Eli threw himself back into the co-pilot seat, panting. "Remind me never to complain about traffic again." Despite the chaos, Sierra laughed once, a sound small but bright. Then she saw the canyon closing ahead. "Hold tight," she yelled. The ship squeezed through a narrow gap, wings scraping stone. A wall of dust rose behind them, hiding their trail. The radar blinked, no drones visible. "Did we lose them?" Eli asked, still gripping his seat. "For now," Sierra said quietly. "But they'll scan again soon." The ship finally slowed, engines wheezing. Ahead, hidden between cliffs, stood the ruins of an old human war base, half buried in sand, silent, cold, forgotten. Sierra guided the ship down, landing hard on cracked ground. The engines coughed and died. Eli unbuckled fast. "Well," he muttered, "we're alive." "That's a start," Sierra smiled weakly. "You're not very good at calm landings." "Never had the chance to practice during a war," he said. They stepped outside. The air was thick and metallic. The base loomed before them, its doors broken, lights long dead. On one wall, the human flag hung in tatters, half burned but still visible. Eli stared at it for a moment. "My father fought in bases like this," he whispered. "Said they'd never fall. Guess he was wrong." Sierra touched the wall gently, her glowing fingers tracing the edges of the old metal. "Your kind builds things that refuse to die." They entered the base. The halls were dark, filled with dust and silence. Old human machines stood like statues waiting. Somewhere deep inside, faint lights flickered to life, sensors awakening after decades of sleep. Eli raised his rifle. "Something's powering up." Sierra stepped closer to a control panel, eyes wide. "The base AI, it still lives. A deep voice echoed through the corridor, metallic and ancient. Unauthorized life detected. Purge sequence initiated. Red lights flared across the walls. Doors slammed shut. Alarms wailed. Eli turned to Sierra. You said hide, not get vaporized. I can stop it, she shouted, running toward the control hub. Just keep the doors closed. He took position by the entrance, firing at security drones that dropped from the ceiling. Sparks flew as he destroyed 2 of them, but more crawled from the shadows. Sierra's hands danced across the terminal. Her voice mixed human words with alien code. The red lights blinked, slower, until they finally turned blue. Then silence. The AI's voice returned, calmer now. Human command detected. Identity confirmed. Welcome back, Soldier Eli Grant. Eli blinked. What did you just do? Sierra smiled faintly. I told it you're its commander. He stared at her, half amazed. Remind me never to argue with you. She laughed softly, relief in her tone. But outside, the storm roared louder again. On the radar screen, new signals appeared, bigger this time. Dozens. Eli looked at the display. His jaw tightened. They found us again. Sierra turned toward the main computer. Then we use the base defenses. We make a stand, Eli nodded. Let's show them what humans can do. The AI spoke once more, voice like thunder. Weapons online. Preparing for battle. The walls shook as ancient cannons rose from the sand. And above, in the burning red sky, the hunters came once more. The storm outside had calmed, but inside the old war base, something far greater had awakened. The walls glowed faintly with blue light, power humming through forgotten circuits. Dust fell from the ceiling as giant machines stirred after a century of silence. Eli stood beside Sierra, staring at the central core, a massive glowing sphere floating in magnetic suspension. The voice of the base AI filled the air, deep and metallic. Command identity confirmed. Human soldier Eli Grant, status active. Eli frowned. Active? I wasn't even born when this place existed. Sierra watched the sphere closely. It doesn't care about time, she said. It only cares about orders. The AI continued. Foreign life form detected. Species unknown. Awaiting authorization. Sierra raised her hand slowly. I mean no harm, she said softly. Eli stepped forward. She's with me. The lights dimmed as if the AI was thinking. Then it replied. Understood. Updating recognition protocols. The base returned to calm. The sound of power generators echoed like a heartbeat. For the first time since they fled, they could breathe. Eli dropped his rifle onto the console. All right, he sighed. Maybe we finally caught a break, Sierra smiled faintly. You humans are lucky. My kind would have shot first, he chuckled. Yeah, that sounds about right. But before he could relax, the AI spoke again. Warning. Multiple heat signatures approaching. 47 aerial units. 11 ground walkers. Eli's jaw tightened. They found us faster than I thought. Sierra turned to the holographic map. Red dots blinked across the desert, moving toward them. They'll surround the base in minutes. Eli moved to the weapons console. Then we fight. She looked at him, concerned. You can't win against them, Eli, he smirked. Maybe not, but I can buy us time. They split up. Sierra worked on linking her data cube to the base's main core, hoping to broadcast the origin code into space. Eli powered up the defense turrets, checking old ammunition supplies. Base, Eli commanded. Activate perimeter guns. Acknowledged. Targeting hostile signals. Huge cannons rose from the sand outside, covered in rust but still deadly. The first wave arrived, drones and machines shaped like metal insects. Plasma fire rained down from the sky. The base turrets roared back, lighting up the night. The ground shook under every blast. Inside, Sierra struggled to connect her crystal. Sparks flew as she hacked through old systems. It's rejecting the signal, she shouted. Keep trying. Eli yelled over the noise. We need that message out. The AI's voice thundered again. Shields failing. Structural integrity at 70%. Eli reloaded his rifle. Can't you boost the power? Sierra looked up, desperate. Not without burning the core! Do it, he said firmly. We're dead anyway if they get in. She hesitated, then nodded and slammed her palm on the control pad. The lights flared. The entire base shook as energy surged through the walls. Outside, the turrets fired faster. Beams of light tore through the enemy swarm. The sand turned to glass under the heat. But for every drone destroyed, 2 more arrived. One of the walls cracked. The air grew hot. Eli ran to seal the breach. Metal doors slammed down, trapping smoke and sparks behind them. He turned back to Sierra. "Status?" "The broadcast is almost ready," she cried. "But the system is overheating." Before she could finish, the AI's voice cut in again. "Warning. Power core critical. Evacuation recommended." Eli ignored it. "No one's leaving until that data is out." Sierra looked at him, her eyes shining. "Why are you doing this, Eli? You don't even know what this truth will bring." He smiled faintly. "Doesn't matter. Every lie needs someone crazy enough to fight it." For a second, her expression softened. Then the ground exploded. The roof split open, a massive drone, 10 meters tall, descended through the smoke. Its eyes glowed red, weapons charging. "Surrender the fugitive. Humanity will be spared." Eli aimed his rifle. "You picked the wrong human," he fired. Bullets sparked against the drone's armor. It struck back, sending Eli flying across the room. Sierra screamed, running to him. "Eli!" He pushed himself up, coughing. "Finish the upload." "But you'll die." "Finish it!" She turned back to the console, tears in her eyes. The cube glowed brighter, energy spilling like fire. The drone raised its weapon, aiming at her. Eli grabbed a plasma grenade from his belt. He pulled the pin and ran forward. "Hey, machine," he shouted. The drone turned just as Eli jumped, slamming the grenade into its core. The explosion lit the entire room in blue fire. When the smoke cleared, the drone was gone. Eli lay motionless beside the wreckage. Sierra crawled to him, shaking. "Eli, please." His eyes flickered open. He smiled weakly. "You did it?" "The signal's ready," she whispered. "I just need one more command." Eli reached for the console with trembling fingers. "Then let's send it to the stars," he pressed the button. The base core roared, sending a beam of golden light into the sky, cutting through the clouds, past the atmosphere, past everything. Far above, the enemy fleet turned toward the signal, too late to stop it. The truth of the origin code had been released. Sierra looked up through the hole in the ceiling, tears glowing like stars on her cheeks. "It's done," she whispered. Beside her, Eli closed his eyes, his voice faint but sure. "Then maybe the galaxy finally knows what humans are made of." Outside, the old base stood burning, but its cannons still fired, refusing to die, just like the humans who built it. And in that forgotten desert, a new war had just begun. The light from the beam still burned through the sky like a golden wound. It reached beyond the clouds, beyond the ships, carrying the secret of the origin code to every listening system in the galaxy. But victory came with a price. Inside the ruined base, smoke filled the air. Sparks rained down from the ceiling. The ground trembled beneath Eli and Sierra as the power core screamed under overload. Sierra crouched beside Eli, her silver eyes wide with fear. "The core is melting down," she said. "If it explodes, the whole canyon will vanish." Eli groaned, pushing himself up. His armor was cracked, blood on his lips, but his eyes were still sharp. "We did what we came for," he said, coughing. "Now we get out." She shook her head. The doors sealed. The explosion damaged the exit. He looked around the burning control room. The AI's voice echoed faintly, distorted by static. "Core critical. Detonation in 3 minutes." Eli limped toward the control panel, smashing buttons with his fist. "AI, divert power to external blast doors." "Negative," the voice replied. "Power reserves depleted." Sierra grabbed his arm. "Eli, stop." "It's over." He looked at her, firelight flickering in his eyes. "Not yet." Outside, the enemy fleet moved closer. Dozens of warships filled the sky, engines glowing red. They weren't retreating. They were preparing to erase everything left on the planet. Inside the base, the last generators flickered. Sierra turned toward the shattered roof and saw them, dark shapes descending like vultures. "They're coming," she whispered. Eli checked his rifle. Half the magazine left. Not nearly enough. But he still smiled. "Then we give them a welcome." Sierra stared at him, tears forming. "You can't fight them all." "Maybe not," he said quietly, "but I can buy you time." She shook her head. "No, you're coming with me." "Sierra," he said firmly, "you're the one who carries the truth. You have to live." He reached for a nearby control lever, pulling it hard. A hidden panel opened in the floor, a narrow escape tunnel once used by soldiers. "That leads to the lower hangar. Maybe there's a vehicle still working." Sierra stared at the dark tunnel, then back at him. "Come with me," he hesitated. "If I go, the drones will follow. If I stay, I can keep them busy." She grabbed his hand, her voice trembling. Eli, please. He smiled faintly. Hey, didn't I promise I'd protect you? She felt his grip tighten, and then he gently pushed her toward the tunnel. Go, now. Tears rolled down her cheeks. You're safe now, she whispered weakly. I'll protect you next time. Eli chuckled softly. I'll hold you to that. Then the roof exploded. Metal shards flew everywhere. Drones swarmed into the room, red eyes burning. Eli turned, raising his rifle. Go, he shouted. Sierra hesitated one last time, then disappeared into the tunnel's darkness. Eli faced the oncoming swarm. His rifle roared, firing until the barrel burned. Each shot tore through a machine, each explosion lighting the smoke around him. But there were too many. The world burned behind her. Sierra ran through the narrow tunnel, the sound of explosions chasing her like thunder. The floor shook, dust falling in clouds. Each step felt heavier than the last. She could still hear his voice echoing in her mind. Go. Now. When she reached the lower hangar, the air was thick with smoke. Old human vehicles lay buried under dust and metal sheets. The base trembled again. Fire rolled through the tunnel behind her. Sierra coughed, searching desperately. Come on, come on. Then she saw it, a small human scout craft, half broken, half alive. She sprinted toward it, slamming her hand on the control panel. The ship's systems flickered to life, weak but functional. She climbed inside and shouted at the AI interface. Start flight mode. Engines unstable. Launch not advised. Do it anyway. The ship lifted, shaking violently as the hangar doors blew open. Flames swallowed the base below, turning it into a sea of light. Sierra looked down through the viewport. She could still see Eli standing in the ruins, surrounded by fire and machines. He was still fighting. Tears blurred her vision. Eli? The ship rose higher, and for a moment she saw him raise his head, looking straight at her through the flames. He smiled even as the light grew brighter around him. Then the core exploded. A pillar of golden fire rose into the sky, reaching into orbit. The enemy ships tried to scatter, but the shockwave hit them like a storm. One by one, their systems crashed. Their communication lines filled with static, and then, across every channel, the origin code began to play. Every world that could hear it stopped. From the frozen moons of the Valari Empire to the human colonies beyond Mars, the same voice echoed through every network. The truth belongs to all life. Not to kings, not to gods, but to those who dare to seek it. And within that signal was the proof, the genetic patterns linking every species back to a single shared design. The illusion of superiority shattered. The lie of the Council burned away. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy went silent. Sierra drifted in space, her ship barely holding together. The explosion had thrown her far from the planet into the quiet sea of stars. The silence was deafening. She looked out at the glowing horizon, the dying world below her, and whispered, Eli. Her hand shook as she activated the console. The origin code broadcast was still active, spreading like wildfire. She smiled faintly. You did it. But then the sensors beeped, weak life signs detected near the planet's orbit. Her heart jumped. No, it can't be. She rerouted power to the scanners, ignoring the warnings. A small pod was drifting through debris, metal scorched but intact. Inside, one human signal. Sierra gasped. Eli. She guided her ship closer, every system groaning in protest. The moment she reached the pod, she opened the hatch manually. Inside, covered in soot and blood, Eli Grant lay unconscious but alive. She pressed her glowing hands to his chest. Come on, human. Don't you dare leave me now. His heartbeat returned, faint but real. Eli's eyes opened slowly. His voice was weak but still had that rough humor. Guess I missed the fireworks, Sierra laughed through tears. You destroyed half the fleet. That's more than fireworks. He blinked, looking out the window at the burning horizon. Did the message go through? She nodded, smiling. Everywhere, he leaned back, exhausted. Then, I guess we won. Sierra looked at him softly. No, you did, he shook his head. No, we did. They drifted together in silence, the stars reflecting in the cracked glass. For a long time, neither spoke. The galaxy was changing, and they both knew it. After a while, Sierra turned to him. What happens now? Eli looked out at the stars, where the golden light of the explosion still shimmered. Now? He said with a faint grin. We start again. She smiled, resting her head against his shoulder. Humans, you never give up, do you? He laughed weakly. Not when someone says please. Syrah closed her eyes, whispering, please, human. Don't let them find me. Eli smiled at the memory. They won't. You're safe now. He looked out at the endless stars, a broken soldier and a hunted alien, floating between worlds, carrying the spark that could change everything. And for the first time, the galaxy felt alive again. Epilogue weeks later, across thousands of worlds, the message of the origin code spread like light through darkness. Empires fell. Borders vanished. On one quiet outpost near the rim of the galaxy, a new beacon was built. It carried a single inscription carved into steel. To those who chose truth over power, to the human who stayed when others ran. And under the stars, the beacon pulsed with golden light, the same light that once rose from the desert, the same spark of humanity that refused to die.